Hi everyone, I'm Trish Connor-Cato. Welcome to Analyzing Data with SQL Server Reporting Services, also referred to as SSRS. This video course is for those who will be the administrators of SSRS and who need to create dynamic paginated reports using the reporting tools. You'll also learn the SSRS administrative tasks during the course. When we begin the course, there is a Word document in the video description that I will review with you before we get started into the course. In this Word document, you'll find all the software requirements necessary to get your system ready for this course, as well as the links and instructions to download and configure software as necessary. In Module 4, you'll focus on how to use filters and parameters to make reports more dynamic and useful to business users. Module 5 introduces you to how to visualize data in SSRS. This includes formatting data, which happens throughout the course, and adding images to reports. You will learn how to create charts, databars, sparklines, indicators, and gauges. And the module ends by creating a map using spatial data from the database. In Module 4, we'll be working with reporting services data. It's common for business requirements to change regarding the information they need and how they want data presented. On viewing a detailed report, senior management might ask for higher-level summarized or filtered versions of the same report. Report Builder and Report Designer support these scenarios. In this module, you'll see how to use filters and parameters to make reports more dynamic and useful to business users. We have 3 lessons in this module. The first lesson will start talking about data filters. In Lesson 2, we'll talk about report parameters. In Lesson 3, we will be implementing report filters and parameters. So let's talk about data filters. They're parts of the report that help control what data is in the report after the data is retrieved from the data connection. You would only use filters when you can't change a dataset query to filter data before it is retrieved from an external data source. So if it's SQL Server, like you can build in where and or having clauses into your SQL queries, and then the dataset would already be filtered when it comes in. So when you reduce the amount of data that must be retrieved and processed, you're also helping to improve the report performance. Now, that's not always possible. That's why I'm here to teach you about filtering in reports. So the filter is an equation, and it includes a dataset field or expression that specifies the data to filter, an operator, and a value to compare. Only those data values that match the filter condition are included when the item is processed. There's also a link for more information on dataset filters from Microsoft Docs. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about are data regions. I refer to them as zones, but they're officially called data regions. It's an object in a paginated report that displays data from a report dataset. Data can be displayed as numbers and text in a table, matrix, or list, and we've seen the table already, graphically in a chart or gauge, and against a geographic background in a map. So you learned a little bit about this, the tablets data region. So tables, matrices, and lists are all based on that data region. And that expands as needed to display all of the data from the data set. It supports multiple row and column groups, as you've seen, and both static and dynamic rows and columns. You can also save a data region or a map as a report part. Report items such as tables, matrices, charts, and images can be published as report parts. Report parts are paginated report items that have been published separately to a report server, and then they can be reused in other paginated reports. So I'm back in Visual Studio, And I switched over to our first sales information report, just the sales information VS report. And by the way, you can switch between your two reports from the tabs above them. I'm actually going to go ahead and close the tab for the Sales Info Wizard VS report. And we're going to filter this report. Now, our data set spans the range from January 1st, 2013 to May 31st, 2016. And we want to filter the report to only show 2013 sales information. So we're going to select our table, and I'm going to right click in a gray area of the table, like in any of the gray boxes, the header box, the row boxes, doesn't matter. And then you're going to see Tablix Properties. On the left side, we're going to click on Filters, and we're going to click Add. So the expression, we're going to use the drop-down arrow to show the fields in our data set, and we're going to select Order Date. For the operator, where it says equal, it defaults to equals, we're going to do the drop-down, and we're going to select Between. The first value box, we're going to just type in, I'm going to just do the simplest date, 1/1/2013. I could have done 2013 dash and then 01-01, but it accepts several different common date formats until it doesn't. And then I'm going to tab over twice, because if I tab once, it goes to the function button. So I'm in the second value box, and I'm going to type 12/31/2013. At the bottom, click OK. Now we're going to preview this in a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and close my output pane at the bottom from when we deployed this to the report server. And now I'm going to preview. So you can see on page 1, it's January 1st, 2013. I'm going to go to the last page, and it's December 31st, 2013. Now that's kind of built into the report. Every time the report is run, it's only going to be limited to that date range. We can go back to Design View and go ahead and save. So now I'm going to have you on your own do the same filter in Report Builder on our Sales Information RB report. I'll show you my completed one in just a bit, but do this one on your own. It's going to be the exact same process as it was in Visual Studio. It's nice when it's the same exact process in both applications. So you're seeing my last page here, which shows December 31st, 2013. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go and remove the filter. Let's go to Design View. And we're going to go exactly back where we were, where we created the filter. So I need to go into Tablix Properties, Filters tab. And you have to click on the expression itself to select the filter. And then the delete button above it will become active. Go ahead and delete the filter and click OK. So we've applied report filters in both Visual Studio and in Report Builder, and then you learned how to get rid of a report filter. Whenever those reports that are filtered are run, they're only going to display the items that match the filter condition. In order to give your end user more control over what displays, you can use report parameters. They enable users to control report data. They can do a lot of things. They can connect related reports together and vary report presentation as well. You can use them in paginated reports in both Report Builder and Report Designer, and in mobile reports that we'll create later in the course through SQL Server Mobile Report Publisher. So there are basically two types of parameters. There are report parameters that serve as filters on reports. All data is loaded into the report and then filtered based on parameters. There are also query parameters, which are better for performance as the values of the parameters are sent to SQL Server, filtered, and then sent to the report. Before we create our parameter in Report Builder, let's go ahead and copy. I'm back in SQL Server Management Studio, and we need to copy that main query again. And then I'm going to switch over to Report Builder. You'll see why we need that query on our clipboard in a moment. The first thing we need to do here is we need to display the parameters pane. So I'm going to just right-click in a blank area, hover over View, and choose Parameters. And the parameters pane shows above your report underneath the ribbon interface. In the report data pane, you want to expand your datasets folder if necessary. And our dataset we named Sales Info. We're going to right-click on Sales Info. Now, I just want to point something out here. Notice that query is dimmed out. You cannot get to the query from here. And the reason why is because we're using a shared data set. So we would have to go to that original shared data set, modify it in order to do what we need to do. And we don't want to do that. We want to use that shared data set for a multitude of reports. And for this particular report, we want it to be an embedded data set so that we can modify the query for our parameter. So we're going to go to Dataset Properties. Now, when we get into Dataset Properties, the first thing I'm going to do is rename this dataset. I'm going to put the word parameter at the end of it. And then I'm going to do the option button that says Use a dataset embedded in my report. For your data source, you're going to click the New button in order for it to show you a list of your shared connections. So we can use a shared data source with an embedded data set, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to name this data source. I'm just going to call it DSP for data source parameter. And then I'm going to select my shared sales information from my correct ReportServer data source. And we have the ability to test the connection down here. So I'm going to click Test Connection. Yay. Click OK. If you didn't get a yay, it's probably a credential issue. You'll get an error message. If you look at the details, it will tell you it's probably a credential issue, and you could come to your Credentials tab and fix it. We're going to click OK. So we have our shared data source in here. We're going to go to the query box and paste our main query. So this is the query that we're going to modify. It is not from our shared data set. We're embedding this one in this particular report. And to modify it, we need to add a where clause. And the where clause will set up the filter and create the parameter. So the second line from the bottom starts with group by. I'm going to get in front of group by and press enter and do my up arrow to get into that blank line. And I'm going to type where. Now we have to refer to the field the way it's referred to in this query. And so in this query, all of the tables from the database have been assigned aliases. The order date field is in a table called Sales Orders, which has an alias SO. So if you look down in the group by clause, you'll see group by SO.order ID, SO.order date. We're going to type SO.order date. And then we're going to do a space and a greater than equal sign. And then we're going to do an @ symbol or a mention symbol, as they're getting known nowadays. And we're going to type, so the @ symbol says, make this a parameter. And we're going to name the parameter order date. So that line should say where SO.order date greater than equal @ order date. At the bottom, we're going to click OK. Now, a couple of things have happened. Your parameters pane is now populated with the order date parameter. And if you look in the report data pane, the parameters folder has the order date parameter. And just make note of the icon. You can see the little @ symbol in the bottom right corner of that icon for a parameter in Report Builder. So what does this do? It's going to give the end user the ability to select the start date of the report. So our data goes from January 1st, 2013 through May 31st, 2016. And if the user would like to start the report, say like in January of 2015, they will be able to do that. So now we're going to change some parameter properties before we test our parameter. So in the parameters pane, you're going to double click on order date, and it opens the parameter properties window. So you see the name, and then it has a prompt. We're going to click in front of order date in the prompt text box, and we're going to type select a start date for report. Actually, we can just get rid of order date out of there too. I was going to have it say something different, but I changed my mind. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the data type from text to date time. When it's the date time data type on a parameter, it gives the end user the ability to use a little mini calendar instead of typing in the date. And we're going to click OK at the bottom. So now let's go ahead and run our report. And we're going to type in January 1st, 2015. And you can either press enter or go all the way to the right and click the view report button. And notice the report starts with January 1st, 2015. We can go back to design view and let's save this report. In the next module, we're going to be working with parameters a bit more, creating multiple parameters on a report and so on and so forth. But for right now, we want to recreate this parameter in Visual Studio. So I'm going to switch over to Visual Studio. Now this way, you'll see there are slight differences in how you handle this in Visual Studio versus Report Builder. So we're going to start by right-clicking anywhere on our interface, hovering over View and grabbing the Parameters pane. And then we're going to go over to the Report Data pane and right-click on our data set. And again, this is a shared data set, so we can't get to the query. We're going to go to Dataset Properties. So far, everything has been the same. We're going to use a data set embedded in my report. We're going to select that option button. And at the end of the name of this data set, we're going to just put the word param, or abbreviation param for parameter. For the data source here, we're going to go to New. Now, this is where it's slightly different. Okay, this screen. When we go to New in Report Builder, it brings us to our shared data sources. Here, it defaults to an embedded connection as if we wanted to create an embedded data source just in this report, and we'd have to build the connection string and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to first go down to the option button for Use Shared Data Source Reference. And then here, we're going to do the drop down and our shared data source will show. In Report Builder, we had to click New to see that. So just slight differences here. We're going to name this one. We can just name it Parameter. And we're going to click OK at the bottom. Oh, I already have something named Parameter. So I'm going to just call it Parameters, plural. And do OK. Now we're going to paste our query in. Again, our main query, it should still be on your clipboard. And above the group by statement, we're going to put in our where clause, where so.order date. And then we have our greater than equal symbols. And then at symbol, order date. Same as we did in Report Builder's query. And we're going to click OK. So now we have that. So this is an instance where I'd like you to see the error happen because it's a pretty common error, especially when you're new to doing this. So before we get to the error, let's double click on order date in the parameters pane. And we're going to change the prompt to enter a start date. And we're going to make it a date time data type so it gives the little mini calendar. And we'll click OK. If you notice in your parameters folder in the report data pane, the icon is slightly different than in Report Builder, but it still has that @ symbol on it. So this is where the error is going to happen. Let's go ahead and preview. And let's put in January 1st, 2014 and press enter. And we're going to get a blank report. This is the reason why. Let's go back to Design View, and we're going to select our table. We're going to right-click in a gray area and go to Tablix Properties. We never removed the filter in here. We had removed the filter in Report Builder, so we have to remove the filter here. So we're going to go to Filters. We're going to click in the expression and then delete. OK out of there. And now go and preview. And this time we'll put in January 1st, 2014, press enter, and now it's going to load the results. So you can see that the start date of the report is January 1st, 2014. We're going to go back to Design View. So the parameter will not work if you have a filter applied on the Tablix region. So just to recap what we did in Module 4, working with reporting services data, we started with data filters, and you learned how to apply data filters via Tablix properties. We also learned how to delete data filters, and then we moved on to creating report parameters by making embedded data sets and adding a where clause to the main query copy. And we then formatted the parameter via its properties to select a prompt and a data type. And we implemented the report filters and parameters. We did this both in Report Builder and Report Designer. And in Report Designer in Visual Studio, we encountered an error with our parameter because we hadn't deleted the report filter. As the amount of data being generated continues to grow, the need to make sense of its meaning increases. You use data visualization to make data easier to understand and faster to interpret. Data visualizations highlight comparisons, show trends, and convey scale much faster than a table of numbers could. The detail is important, but visualizations are a highly effective way of conveying meaning and insights quickly and accurately. And we'll be focusing on that in Module 5. So we have been formatting data along the way during this course, and Lesson 1 is targeting toward formatting data, and we will be doing some more data formatting in this module. Lesson 2 will take us into images and charts as visualization tools. And Lesson 3, you'll learn other visualization tools, including Databars, Sparklines, indicators, gauges, and maps. We're going to start this module in SSRS. In your files in the video description, there is a PNG file called Learnit logo. We're going to be using that logo in this module, and in order to access it, we're going to have to upload it to SSRS. So if you haven't already grabbed all the files from the video description, you want to go and get that Learnit logo. And in SSRS, we're going to use the upload button and navigate to wherever you saved that logo. Let me get to where I saved it. And I'm going to just double click it. And it lets me know that the upload is complete. So it creates a category called resources. We have one resource, and it is that Learnit logo. So now we're going to switch over to Visual Studio. We're going to start by creating a new report from scratch in here. So in Solution Explorer, I'm going to right-click on the Reports folder. I'm going to choose Add and then choose New Item. And we're going to name this report Sales by Quarter. And we're going to click on Add. So we have our framework for the report. Well, we'll leave the parameters pane open because we're going to be doing more parameters in this module. But let's right-click on your report surface. We're going to do Insert, and this time we're going to choose Chart. In your Select Chart Type dialog box, notice the types of charts on the left side, and there's not any called pie. In here, they're called shape charts. So I'm going to go to the first shape, which is when you hover over it, it says pie. The second one says exploded pie, but as a category, it's known as shape. So I want the first shape, and I'm going to click OK. So now it brings me up to the dataset properties. We're going to name the dataset quarterly chart. And we're going to use a dataset embedded in our report. We're going to click the New button to the right of Data Source. We're going to name this data source Chart Data. And we're going to choose our shared data source reference. And using the drop-down, we're going to select Shared Sales Information VS. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then click in the query. Now, it's probably the main query has script in there that breaks things down by quarter, and we can use that main query. It should still be on your clipboard, so I'm going to just paste it in here. And by the way, when we were doing our parameters in the last module, what we're doing in here is not impacting the queries that we have in SQL Server Management Studio at all. That's why we're doing it this way. If we wanted to impact that, we'd have to start all over again with our shared data set, which does not include that where clause. For right now, we're going to just do OK. We'll come back in later and do our parameters. So we get the framework of this pie chart, and I'm going to just move it to the upper left corner and expand its size to fit that framework of the report. Now we're going to configure our chart. So let's start by clicking directly on the pie chart. And when you do so, the chart data pane opens to the right of your chart. And we can do this a couple of different ways. One way I like to do it is just by using the chart data pane instead of opening my data set and dragging and dropping fields. I'm going to do the plus sign to the right of values, and I'm going to choose transaction amount. So it automatically puts it in the values box, and it shows the sum of the transaction amount. Now, if you wanted to use a different aggregate, you can click the drop-down arrow to the right of sum, hover over aggregate, and then change to a different aggregate. We're going to leave it on the sum. We're going to do the plus sign to the right of category groups, and we're going to choose quarter. And then we're going to add a chart title that's quarterly sales. So above your pie, you'll see the chart title text box, and you're going to just type quarterly. I always forget in this one, you actually have to delete the placeholder text. Some programs, you don't have to delete it before you can type. So I've got my chart title in. Let's go ahead and preview this chart right now. So you notice when you're previewing it, the legend shows the different quarters by color, right? And okay, so far so good. Let's go back to design view. It cracks me up that when you're in design view, the legend shows 6 quarters. What we're going to do is we want to show some data labels on the chart. So if you right click on your chart, you can click on Show Data Labels. So now it'll have the value of each slice of the pie that actually shows on the chart. And we're going to do a couple of other formatting issues here too. We would like a solid line between each pie slice to kind of make them look a little bit more highlighted. So we're going to right click on the chart again. And this time we're going to go to Series Properties. On the left side, we're going to click on Border. And for the line style, it defaults. There's a default in there. We're going to do the drop down and we're going to choose Solid. So it defaults to no line. And we're going to change the width of the line to 2 points. And we're going to change the line color to white. And you can see it on your little preview now. We have a 2-point white solid line between each slice of pie. And we're going to click OK. Let's take a look in preview. So the data labels look a little messy here. Let's go back to design view. And we're going to right click on a data label. And we're going to choose Series Label Properties. We're going to go to the Font tab on the left. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font color to white. And I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to make it like 8 point. And then I'm going to go to the Number tab. And I'm going to change it from default to number and get rid of the decimal places, so 0 decimal places, and click OK. When we created this chart, it gave it a default name of Chart 1. So I want to make sure nothing is selected. I just want to click in a white area of the chart framework so nothing in it is selected. And then on your Properties pane on the right side, in the General category, we're going to change the name from Chart 1 to Quarterly Sales. That helps if you're going to have multiple charts in reports to name them so you don't have Chart 1, Chart 2, Chart 3, so on and so forth. If you want to change the color of your pie slices on your chart, select your chart, and that's something that we can do in the Properties pane. So in the Appearance section, we're looking for the color property, and it defaults to automatic. To the right of automatic, there's a drop down. When you select the drop down, you're going to select the link that says More Colors. And then there's like 16 palettes that they have in here that you can choose from. So you can look through the list of palettes. You can choose one that you like. I'm going to look for one called Earth Tones and choose that one for my pie chart. So I noticed my Earth Tones palette is no longer here. They update somehow. I'm not seeing it, or it's no longer here. I know that sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. They switch them out or change the name. So I'm going to just choose a different one for myself. I'm going to go with one called Peru and click OK. So now if I go and preview my chart, all the pie slices have the same color. So I'm going to go back to design, and I'm going to kind of undo that. I'm going to just go back to the color, my now Peru drop down, go back to more colors, and I'm going to just go back and change it back to the automatic palette because that one gave us the different color ones. And let's preview our chart again. And so our data labels look a little bit better. We made them white. You can see our lines that we put between the chart. And our legend, we decide that we want to make the font and the legend a little bit different. So let's go back to design, and we're going to do a few things here. Select your legend, and I want to right click on it. So I want to right click on the legend and go to legend properties. And on the left side, let's go to font, and let's make the font bold in the legend by checking the bold checkbox and clicking OK. And now we're going to create two parameters for this chart. So our parameter pane is already showing. We're going to expand our datasets folder in the report data pane. Right click on our quarterly chart dataset. And because this is an embedded dataset, we have a choice. We could go to query or we could go to dataset properties. Let's go to query this time. So now you see it shows we have all of these things that are showing in here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to hide some of these things. We're actually interested in just the query itself. So we have the ability by using these buttons on the toolbar to hide. The top pane is known as the diagram pane. So I'm going to click the drop down on this show hide diagram pane and hide it. The next one over from that is showing and hiding the grid pane. I'm going to hide that. So it just leaves me with my query here. And then I'm going to choose the edit as text button. And I'm going to drag the divider bar down so I can see more of the query. And so we can see it looks different in here, but we can see our group by clause. We're going to click in front of group, press enter, and do an up arrow. And we're going to type where. We're going to create two parameters in the same where statement. We're going to type where. And the first one is going to be the same one we've done before, so.orderDate. And what we're going to put here, instead of greater than or equal, we're going to do between. And we're going to create two parameters. The first parameter, we're going to call it start date, and the second one we're going to call end date. So we're going to do our @ symbol and type start date. And then we're going to do the and keyword, @ symbol, and type end date. So where so.orderDate between @ start date and @ end date. And now we're going to click OK on the bottom. So we'll see our start date and end date parameters in the parameters pane as well as in the parameters folder. And we want to format both of them to the date time format. And we'll change the prompt a little bit as well. So double click start date in the parameters pane. We're going to say enter start date for our prompt and change it to date time. So in addition to giving you the little mini calendar, when you use the date time data type, it also allows for more international date formats to be utilized. And we're going to click OK. We're going to double click end date. The prompt is going to be enter an end date, change it to date time, and OK. Let's preview this, and we'll use January 1st, 2015. And for an end date, we'll put December 31st, 2015. And so it's showing that information now in the chart. The numbers are different than they were before. Now, this leads me to the next thing that we're going to do, which is we can display a text box on our report saying what it's covering, the range of dates that it's covering. Let's go back to Design View, and at this point, let's save. So we're going to add a report header to this report by right-clicking, actually it's called a page header, and adding a page header. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the parameters pane, or you could do it from the parameters folder. I'm going to drag the start date parameter into the page header, and it puts it in a text box up there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that text box over to the left, and I'm going to expand the width of it. And now, so it puts that parameter in, and notice the format that it's using. It's a open square bracket and then the @start date close square bracket. Before that opening square bracket, so get into that text box, and I want to get before that square bracket, and I'm going to type order dates between and a space. Click after the closing square bracket, type the and word, and then make a space, and then drag your end date parameter down to that part. So it will take whatever dates the end user chooses for their parameters and put them in the report itself by doing it that way. Let's test it. Let's go to preview. And we can choose, I'll do 2013 this time just for variety's sakes. January 1st through 12/31. So now you'll see that it has order dates between January 1st, 2013, it puts the date and time there, and 12/31/2013 on the report. Now, why would that be necessary if someone can just look up here and see the dates? It's necessary if you're planning to export this to another format. So that save icon on the report toolbar is your vehicle to export. So if I go to save and I export it, you're not going to see the parameters pane in your export. So having the text box there in the page header would help if I exported this to Word or Excel or PowerPoint or any of those other formats. So, and that's the same as in Report Builder as it is in here. So yeah, if you're going to be exporting it, this is a good idea to let the people that are viewing it know what date range is being encompassed. And we're going to go back to design view and save. We're going to fix that placeholder text in the page header so it doesn't show the date and time. And it's easy to do. We're going to right click on the start date parameter placeholder, and we're going to go to placeholder properties. On the left side, we're going to go to number, we're going to select date, and we're going to find the date that says January 31st, 2000. And we're going to do the same thing for the end date placeholder. And click OK. And now let's go and preview that. So you can put in whatever date range you want from January 1st, 2013, all the way through May 31st, 2016 if you want the whole data set, but I'm just doing the year of 2013 here. So now it's clearer in the placeholder, and we don't have the time piece of the date involved. And we can go back to design view. Now we're going to put an actionable text box underneath our chart. And when the text in the text box is clicked, it will actually go to a specific URL. So the first thing we're going to do is put your mouse on the bottom black border underneath your chart so you get that vertical arrow. Hold your mouse down and drag down just a little bit. In the newly created blank space, you're going to right click, hover over Insert, and you're going to choose Text Box. We're going to move the text box to the left side and expand its width And in it, we're going to type for additional information on chart formats, comma, click here, period. Now we're going to click away from the text box and then right click on it to select it. And we're going to go to text box properties. On the left side, we're going to select action. And the action we're going to choose is go to URL. Click in your select URL box. Now, I have a URL that we're going to use in that software requirements Word document. So I'm going to bring that up. And almost at the bottom, you have a URL for a chart. So we can't copy it from the Word document into Report Designer. We're going to actually hold down your Control key and click on the URL in the Word document to actually go to that URL. And then we're going to go up to the address bar and select the URL and copy it from there. Now we can go back to Visual Studio. And we can paste it into that select URL box. And we can OK. So now let's preview this report. I'm going to use January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013. You can use whatever date range you like here. And now when I hover over that text for additional information on chart formats, click here, it will actually bring up that website. And we can close both of those website tabs. I'm going to leave my SSRS open, but close both of those website tabs. And go ahead and save. Earlier, we uploaded the Learnit logo to SSRS. It has to be in SSRS in order for us to access it from within Report Builder. But we're in Report Designer now, so we're going to access it a totally different way. We're going to right-click in the blank area under that order dates between, and now we have our parameter placeholders. We're going to right-click in that blank space and choose Insert. Notice because we're within the body of the report, we don't have a long list of things that we can insert. We're going to choose Image. And it opens the Image Properties dialog box. We're going to name the image Learnit Logo. And we'll give it a tooltip. Please visit learnit.com for all your training needs. Exclamation point, just because. The image source in here is going to be embedded. And we're going to choose Import. So it opens up the folder where our project is saved, and we need to get the logo into that folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go to my Window Explorer window and bring up my files for the video description. I'm going to copy Learnit logo. And then I'm going to just paste it into that directory in the open dialog box. Now it's not showing. Why isn't it showing? In the lower right corner above the open button, it's only looking at JPEG files. We need to do the drop down and select PNG files, and then you'll see your Learnit logo. You can double click it, and now it has it in here. And we're going to click OK. So we're going to move that logo over to the right, and then we're going to expand its width so we can actually see the entire logo. So it looks like that. And go ahead and preview. Select whatever date range you want. We're going to take a moment to reorganize our parameters pane. So it has 4 columns and 2 rows. It starts out that way, and we don't need 4 columns. We just need 1. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to just click and hold on the enter and end date parameter and just drag it and drop it underneath enter start date. And then I'm going to right click on the empty column to the right and delete the column. And these columns, I haven't figured out a way to select more than one to delete at the same time. So we're going to delete the other two columns that are empty at this point as well. And that's not a necessary step. I've mentioned my OCD, so I kind of like a clean workspace whenever possible. But you should be able to know that you're able to do that, and it will create more grids for you if you add more parameters. We are going to save this report, and we can close it. I'm going to use the tab to close it. And we should still have our Sales Info VS report open. And let's get rid of, well, actually, we'll leave the parameters pane the way it is because we want to add 2 more parameters to this at this point. So now we're going to right click on our data set. And because we made it embedded, we can go directly to query or dataset properties. I actually prefer dataset properties. And we're going to modify our where clause in this query here. So right now we just have the order date. We only have one parameter. We have it order date is what we called it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click at the end at that where statement. And actually, we're going to change the greater than equal sign to the keyword between. And then in here, let's call it start date. So we're going to call that, we're going to rename that parameter from at order date to at start date. Click at the end of it and type the and keyword and then at end date. But we have more. We're going to press enter and we're going to type and then WSI is a table alias dot. And the field name is stock item name. Because it's a text field, we can't use like an equal or something like that. It's going to be the like keyword. So and WSI dot stock item name like. And we're going to do a parameter. So at, and we're going to name it item name. And now we're going to click OK. So we have start date, end date, and item name. We're going to get rid of the enter a start date parameter that we had there before, right? So that one was based off, it's really the order date one, and we made one called start date and end date now. So in the parameters folder, I'm going to right click on order date and delete and confirm the deletion. And then I'm going to drag the start date to the first column. I'm going to drag end date underneath start date. And then I'm going to drag item name underneath. And now we're going to double click item name. And for the prompt, we're going to put in enter item name. And then at the end of that line, in parentheses, we're going to type the % symbol as wildcard and close the parentheses. So this is saying to the end user, you can enter a partial item name by using the % sign. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And let's save this and then go into preview. And you'll see your 3 parameters there. So I'm going to just use January 1st, 2014 this time and December 31st, 2014 as my start and end dates. And then for the item name, I'm going to type USB and a %. And I'm going to look at my report. So it's just showing me the date range is fine. I keep getting these errors that pop up, but they don't mean anything. The date range is fine, right? And it's showing me any item name that contains USB. So USB followed by anything else. Now, imagine if we had an item where USB was in the middle of the item name. We would have to put the percent in front of USB as well as the percent behind it. So it will find USB wherever it is. Since we put the percent afterwards, it's only finding those that are starting with USB. And you can go back to design view. You would really want to make your reports as easy to use, especially your parameters in your reports, as easy to use for the end users as possible. So instead of relying on them to have to know the wildcards, the percents, and how they need to be placed, we're going to create an expression that concatenates the wildcards so they won't ever have to use them. And so we're going to head back to our data set and right click on it and go back to dataset properties. The change we're going to be making is going to be in the line that starts with and wsi.stockItemName like at item name. That's where we're going to be making this change to concatenate the percent signs in. So after the like keyword, I'm going to use a space. We're going to do a single quote, the percent sign, close the single quote. Then we're going to do a space and a plus sign. Click at the end of the line after the parameter at item name. You're going to do a space, another plus sign, single quote, percent, single quote. So this is saying it's adding the percent before the item name. The plus sign is the concatenation character here, right? And it's adding a percent after the item name. So wherever USB shows up in the item name, the end user won't be responsible for using the percentages. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And let's change this. Let's change the prompt for this one. So I'm going to double click, enter item name percent as wildcard. And in parentheses, I'm going to get rid of that percent as wildcard. And I'm going to type partial names accepted. And click OK. Let's preview it again. Use whatever date range you want. And we're going to use USB again, but we don't have to type any percentages. Just type USB, and it's not case sensitive. So now we have our results. The end user does not have to know about the wildcards and how to use them. Let's go back to design view. If an end user puts incorrect information in the parameters and the result is no results when they preview the report, it would be good to have a message for them that lets them know that there are no results so they don't think that they did something wrong. And we're going to set that up now. Before we do that, we're going to modify our item name parameter. So let's double click it. And under the data type, we're going to allow blank value. And we're going to change what's in the parentheses. So after partial names accepted, I'm going to do a dash and type, or you can leave blank. So we're giving the end user the ability to not have to put in an item name, partial or otherwise. And let's go ahead and click OK. Now we're going to go to preview. Show you what happens here. Let's put in a start date of January 1st, 2023. I don't know when you're watching this video, but we want to pick dates in the future. And I'll do it through 12/31/2023. And I'll press enter. So I get no results. I don't know why, blah, blah, blah. we're going to have a message that displays concerning the date range in our database. So let's go back to design view. What we're going to do is we're going to select our table, and let me just make sure nothing in there in particular is selected. So if I look at my properties panel on the right, it lets me know that I'm in Tablix 1. That's the table. Scroll down in the properties panel until you see the no rows group. And there is a no rows message property. We're going to click in that text box, and we're going to go to its drop down and select expression. So we're going to create a concatenated expression here, letting the end user have some information if they get no results. After the equal sign, I'm going to do a space, and then I'm going to do a double quote, and I'm going to type no results found for the start date, space, closing double quote, space. We're using the ampersand as the concatenation character here. The rest of this we can get in a little bit easier. Under your categories, double click parameters, and over on the right you'll see the 3 parameters that we have: start date, end date, and item name. So you're going to just double click start date, and it puts in parameters, exclamation point, start date dot value, which is nice that you don't have to type it. We're going to do a space, another ampersand, a space, double quote, a space after the double quote, and we're going to type the end date and close our double quote. And actually, before the end date, we're going to type the word and the end date. And then at the end of that, and there is a little scroll bar here, we have our closing double quote, but we need a space before the closing double quote. After that double quote, we're going to do another ampersand, and this time we're going to double click the end date from the value box, our end date parameter from the value box, space, ampersand, space, double quote, space, you have selected, period. 2 spaces, the date range of our database is 1/1/2013-5/31/2016, period, close double quote. So I'll read it out to you again and scroll across. Equal, after the equal sign we have a space, open double quote. No results found for the start date, space, closing double quote, space, ampersand, parameters, exclamation point, start date dot value, space, ampersand, space, double quote, space, and the end date, space, double quote, space, ampersand, parameters, exclamation point, end date dot value, space, ampersand, space, double quote, space, you have selected, period. Space, space. The date range of our database is 1/1/2013-5/31/2016, period, closing double quote. Let's go ahead and click OK. And we want that message to show up in red font. So right underneath no rows, we have our color. We're going to click on the black color, go to the drop down, and choose red. Okay, so now we're ready to preview this. And we're going to put in January 1st, 2023, December 31st, 2023. Press enter. So we get that No results found for the start date, and it gives us our parameter start date, and the end date you have selected the date range of our database is. So that way they will know and maybe be able to correct their error. Maybe it was just an innocent typo, or they're just waiting for next year. We can go back to design view and we can save. So our final lesson in this module is about databars, sparklines, indicators, gauges, and maps. Databars typically represent a single data point. They can represent multiples. They don't have legends, axis lines, labels, or tick marks. Each sparkline typically presents a single series. They also are legendless. Indicators are small gauges that convey the state of a single data value at a glance. They're most commonly used in tables and matrices to visualize data in rows or columns. A gauge data region displays a single value from your data set. An individual gauge can be positioned inside a gauge panel where you can add child or adjacent gauges. And then we have maps, which are maps. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this in Visual Studio. Now we're going to insert a data bar that represents the quantity for each of our line items. So we're going to select our table and then right-click on the gray bar, the table column heading for quantity. You're going to select Insert Column and then Right. In the blank column in the second row, you're going to right-click, go all the way to the bottom and choose Insert, and you're going to choose Data Bar from the list. We're going to go with the default data bar that's selected here and click OK. So now what we need to do is we need to click on our data bar so we get that chart data window that opens. And we're going to do the plus sign for values. Before we do this, actually, let me show you what happens if we don't do it. So let's just go and preview. And let's put in January of 2016 as our date range. And run the report. So nothing is populated because we have to attach to the data bar the field that it's going to represent. So you don't know how many times I've done this and actually forgotten that step, and then I get here and I see the blank and I'm like, really, Trish, you should know better. So we're going to go back to design view. We're going to select the data bar so the chart data opens, do the plus sign for values and choose quantity. Now, this is another little tricky wicket. If we click away from it and then right-click on the data bar, you'll get this context menu or shortcut menu. I'm going to click away from that. I'm going to select the data bar again so that chart data is open. And if I right-click on the data bar now, I get a totally different menu. And what we want to put here is show data labels. So now let's preview this. And you can use any dates that you'd like. And so we can see the value is the same as the value in the quantity column for each data bar. Their width will vary depending on the value. So the wider the data bar, the higher the value, so on and so forth. Because we're going to show the data labels for our data bars, we don't need the quantity column anymore. So we're going to go back to design. We're going to delete that quantity column. And we're going to give our data bar column the heading of QTY. We're going to format our data bar just a little bit. So we're going to select the data bar, and in the properties pane, we will be able to change the color of the data bar. So we're going to change the color of the data bar by changing its palette. So you'll notice there's a property, it's under chart, right? And it's a palette property, it's bright pastel right now. We're going to click where it says bright pastel, do the drop down arrow. There's my earth tones palette. I knew it wasn't in the other screen, but here it is. I'm going to just choose earth tones. I'm so happy to see that again. And then we're going to select the data label for our data bar. And we're going to format it as bold from the toolbar. And now let's go and preview this. And so we have the graphical representation of the quantity as well as the data label showing the actual number of the quantity. And we can go back to design view and save. So now we're going to enter a Sparkline, which will represent the daily total. So that's this non-bolded total row is what we want it to represent. And it's going to be the daily sum of the transaction amount. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on the amount column header, and we're going to insert a column to the right. Now with this one, it's a little tricky. Just watch. I'm going to do this because it won't work. And this is something that you kind of need to know. I like to kind of point out the possible errors. If I go to the second row and I right click and I do insert Sparkline, I'm going to get an error message. Cannot insert a multi-value item into a detail cell. I'm going to click OK. We're doing it for the daily total. So I have to be in that row, the row above the last row. And this is where you can join in and do this as well. We're going to right click, insert, and then we're going to choose Sparkline. On the left side of the Select Sparkline Type dialog box, we're going to click on Line, and we'll go with the first line Sparkline and click OK. Just like a data bar, we have to tie it to the field. So we're going to click on it. We're going to do the plus sign for values in chart data, and we're going to choose transaction amount. So the Sparkline is going to represent the sum of the transaction amount for a particular day, for every particular day. And we can go to the preview and check it out. And you can use whatever date range you want. And so you may say, what? We're not seeing anything here. Well, let's go to the next page. And next page again, I want to get to January 2nd. Okay, so I'm on page 5. And now I can see my Sparkline showing the total for that date. And so it's the sum of the transaction amounts for that particular date. Let's go back to design view. And we want to widen that column that has the Sparkline in it. And after widening the column, we can go back and preview it again. And I'm just going to type in page 5 and press enter there. So I can see it a little bit more clearly now. So it's taking all of the transaction amounts and showing them for that one date in the form of a Sparkline. And we're back to design view and save. I've switched over to Report Builder to our sales information report, sales info RB report. And we're going to use this report to insert an indicator. So we're going to do an indicator for transaction amount, and we're going to put the indicator in a new column to the right of transaction amount. This is the same process in both applications. So I'm going to just select my table, right click on the amount column header, insert column to the right. Now this has to be in a detail cell, so I'm going to go to the second cell, right click, hover over insert, and I am going to choose indicator. And so under directional indicators, we want the one when you hover over it, it says 4 arrows colored. That's the indicator that we're going to use. So once you select it, go ahead and click OK. Now we have to assign a field to the indicator. So we're going to click on it, and the gauge data box opens to the right. Where it says unspecified, do the drop down and choose transaction amount. And it defaults to sum. And if you wanted to change that, you could, but we're good with sum. Now let us run this and see what we have. So I'm going to just give it a start date. And so we can clearly see our indicators, except they're all exactly the same. They're all the red downward pointing arrow. So we have to do a little bit more work for it to actually show the actual amounts. So we're going to go back to design view. In design view, we're going to right click on our indicator, and we're going to go down to indicator properties. On the left side, we're going to select value and states. And now if you look at the bottom of the screen, we have to tell it, we're going to tell it what values to use. It has some default values in there, 0 to 25 for the down arrow, so on and so forth. It also defaults to a percentage. So where it says states measurement unit, we're going to do the drop down and we're going to select numeric. And now the bottom half updates, but we have to give it the right values based on the data that we have in our database. So the first color, the downward pointing red arrow, the start, we're going to leave it at 0, but its end, we're going to put in 5,000. The next arrow down, it's going to be 5,001 as its start. And it's going to go to 10,000. The next one is going to be 10,001. And it's going to end at 15,000. And our last one is going to be 15,001. And we're going to give it an enormous number to end it. We're going to do 5 billion. So 5 with 9 zeros. And then at the bottom, we're going to click OK. So now if we go and run our report here and give it a start date. We'll see that we have the different arrows depending on the value that's represented. And we can go back to design view and go ahead and save your report. Since we use a data bar to represent the quantity in Visual Studio, we're going to use a gauge to represent the quantity here in Report Builder. So we're going to insert a new column to the right of the existing quantity column. We're going to right click in the second cell, go to Insert, and we're going to choose Gauge. We're going to select the last linear gauge. It's called Bullet Graph, and I'm going to just double click it. Once it's in, I'm going to select it so I get the gauge data, and we're going to assign quantity to both linear pointer 1 and linear pointer 2. And, as usual, it defaults to the sum of quantity, which is fine. Okay, so I have quantity assigned to linear pointer 1 and linear pointer 2. With the gauge data panel still open, I'm going to right click on my gauge, and I'm going to go to Scale Properties. We're going to set a maximum that relates to the data in our database. So we're going to choose maximum here, and we're going to change it to 400. The highest one in our data set is like 360 or something. So I'm going a little bit over that. And then on the left side, I'm going to click on the number tab. And I'm going to choose default and click OK. We're going to give it a column heading of QTY gauge. And then let's go ahead and run the report. So now we can see the little mini gauges that are graphically representing the quantities. These are all different things that you can use for visualizing your data. We can go back to Design View and save. So now we're going to create a map report, and we're going to use the map wizard here in Report Builder. But before we get started, we're going to finally be using a different query. So let's switch over to SQL Server Management Studio. And in here, you can go to your drop down over in the upper right corner if necessary to see all of your queries. And we want the map query. So this particular query has geospatial data in it, meaning this delivery location is coded. It includes a bunch of things, including longitude and latitude. And also you'll notice that there's an extra tab on the bottom to the right of results that says spatial results. So it's kind of plotting different locations here based on the delivery location. So we're going to go ahead and click up in the query text and do Control AC to copy it. And then we can switch back over to Report Builder. We want to make sure this report is saved. And then we're going to go to the File tab and we're going to click on New. So we're going to choose the Map Wizard. And we need to choose a source of spatial data. So we're going to use SQL Server Spatial Query. And once we select that option button, we're going to do Next. Now we're going to be using a new data set. So we're not using our shared data set. We're going to go to the bottom and we're going to select the option button for Add a new data set with SQL Server Spatial Data. And Next. So we can use our same shared data source because, again, the data source is a connection to the entire Wide World Importers database. So I'm going to select my shared sales information from my training report server. I'm going to choose Test Connection, click OK, and choose Next. So now we're going to put in our query. We're going to choose the Edit as Text button at the top, and we're going to paste our map query into that box. And by the way, with this map query, what I've done is I limited the results. So I use the offset and the fetch features. So offset 0 rows means start at the first row of data, but only bring in the first 500 rows, just so the map is not overwhelmed with all the data that we have in our database. And after we have that query in there, we're going to choose Next. We're going to leave delivery location as our spatial field. With layer type, we're going to leave it on point. That's the only one that's supported by a Bing Maps layer. We want to check the box underneath that says embed map data into this report. And we're going to check the box that says add a Bing Maps layer. And you'll notice the little preview changes. Now the tile type defaults to road there for your Bing map layer. And we're going to do the drop down next to road. You can look at aerial if you'd like. So it's showing the overhead view of these delivery locations. And then the other one in the drop down, which we're going to select and keep, is hybrid. So it's kind of like aerial and road mixed together, if you will. And now we're going to choose Next. We're going to choose the bubble map and Next. And now we have to use our data set that we put in here. It's called dataset 1. We didn't name it anything. It says it's in this report. So we have that selected. And we're going to choose Next. So the match fields is creating a relationship between spatial and analytical data. The database has already kind of done that before we even restored it in SQL Server Management Studio. So we don't have to do anything on this screen except click Next. And on this screen, choose Color Theme and Data Visualization. We have to give it a data field. We're going to use bubble sizes to visualize data, and we have to give it a data field. So we're going to do the drop down and select transaction amount from that list. And now we're going to click Finish at the bottom. It switched me back over to SSMS, so I just came back over here. And we can see that we have our map framework here in Design View. Let's save this. And I'm going to put it in the SSRS video course folder. And I'm going to call this one, we'll just call it Map, Sales Map. Let's do that, Sales Map. Oops, I don't want spaces there. And save. Let's go ahead and run this report. So you can see the map and you can see the bubble size represents different transaction amounts. The smaller the bubble, the lesser amount. And we're going to do some fixes to this report. So let's go back to Design View. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some parameters. So go ahead and expand your datasets folder in the Report Data pane. Right-click on Dataset 1 and go to Dataset Properties. And here we can actually name this dataset. Just for our purposes, we're going to just call it Map Data. We're going to add a where clause before the order by clause. So I'm going to click in front of order by, enter, and up arrow. So where clauses always go before the order by clause. So we're going to type where, and the field is SCT, Sam Charlie Tango, dot, and transaction amount is the name of the field. And then we're going to type between. We're going to do the @ symbol and type min AMT for amount, space, and @ symbol max AMT for amount. So two parameters, min amount and max amount. And we're going to click OK. So we should see our parameters up in the parameters pane as well if you expand the parameters folder as usual. And we need to change the properties for both of those parameters. So I'm going to go and click on min amount. We want to make the data type an integer here. And the prompt is going to be enter the minimum transaction amount. And click OK. And then we're going to do the same for max amount, except it's going to be enter the maximum transaction amount. Make sure you change it to an integer as well. And go ahead and OK that one. Save your report again. Now we're going to adjust the legend. If you look at the legend, you can barely see it. The font is in white and it's kind of transparent. So it's not standing out too much when you're looking at it. So we want to right click on that legend and we want to go to Legend Properties. We want to kind of move the legend out of the map. So on the first tab, the General tab at the bottom, there's a checkbox that says Show Legend Outside the Viewport. The viewport is what the map is contained in. So we're going to check that box. And then on the left side, we're going to go to the Font tab. And we're going to make the legend bold. the font and the legend bold, and we're going to make it 10 point. And then we're going to go to the Fill tab on the left, and we're going to change the fill color of the legend. So I'm going to go to the color drop down, and I'm going to select like the darkest green color that I can choose there. And now click OK. So the legend displays a lot better when it's outside of the viewport. We gave it a contrasting dark color, white bold font. And we're going to change the title of the legend. So I'm going to just click up where it says title and type trans AMT for amount. We want to get rid of this page footer, so I'm going to just right click in the gray area and remove the page footer. And we're going to click to add title at the top. And we're going to put in a title of transaction amounts by location. And then you also have a map title right underneath that, and we can just delete that text box. And go ahead and run your report again. For a minimum transaction amount, let's put in 500. And for a maximum, let's try 10,000. And so you're seeing it did kind of filter it using the parameters for us on the map. But the legend, for some reason, there's a glitch in the system where the legend is not going to update correctly. And it's a known issue right now. In Report Builder, it's not a workaround for it. So you might want to just do without the legend until they get that resolved. But we can leave it there for now. Go back to Design View and save. Now we're going to talk about report parts. So report parts, you're able to do these in both Report Designer and Report Builder. After you create tables, charts, and other paginated report items in a project, you can publish them as a report part to a report server or SharePoint site integrated with the report server so that they can be reused in other reports. This is a huge efficiency item. The items that you can publish as report charts, as listed on the slides, you have charts, gauges, images, maps, parameters, rectangles, tables, matrices, and lists. We are going to publish our map as a report part. So when you publish a report part, it's assigned a unique ID, and it maintains that ID no matter what else is changed about it. It links the original report item in your report to the report part. When other authors reuse the report part, the ID also links the report part in their report to the report part. So I have a link here. There are slight differences between how the capabilities of this in Report Designer and Report Builder, and you can go to the website to look for more detailed information. We're going to publish our map as a report part in Report Builder. The process of publishing report parts is fairly straightforward in both Report Builder and Report Designer. We don't need to have our map selected in order to do this. We're simply going to go to the File tab of the ribbon, and we're going to choose Publish Report Parts. So you have two choices on this screen. You can publish all report parts with default settings, or you can review and modify report parts before publishing. We're going to select Review and Modify. So you can see exactly from this report, the report parts that it's able to publish. So we have our map, we have our max and min amount parameters, and we have our map data set. You can also edit the title and description in here before you publish. So we could have renamed our map from the default map 1, We could have done that in the properties pane, but we can also do it in here. So let's change that map from map 1. Let's change the name to sales map. And then if you do the little right pointing arrow, you can expand that and it gives you a little preview of it, and you have the ability to write a description of the report part to help identify it. So we'll just put this map identifies transaction amounts by sales locations. It lets you know that it's going to be in a report parts folder on the report server. You can expand your max amount parameter. We're not going to put a description in here, but notice the icons in here. I'm going to collapse max amount and the map. And you can see the icon for a map is the globe. Your max and min amount icons are the same as they are in the parameters folder for a parameter. And then you have at the bottom your data set. We have one data set that we're using for this particular map. So we're going to check the data sets. If you had multiples, that would select all of them. And we'll expand the data set. And in the description, we'll put spatial location data by customer ID from the Wide World Importers database. And we can collapse that. And now all we have to do at the bottom is click on Publish. You'll get green check marks on the right when everything has been published. It lets you know at the bottom the results. Nothing failed to publish. 4 parts published successfully. And we can close this box. And now I'm on my report server in SSRS, and I'm going to do Control R to refresh. And when I do that, the only thing I'll see in this SSRS video course folder is the map data dataset. If I go to the home link, there's my report parts folder, and I want to move that folder into the SSRS video course folder. So I'm going to click its ellipsis button and choose Move and select SSRS video course and then just select. So now when I open that folder, everything is in there. I might have to refresh. Nope, there it is, our report parts folder. So one of the things I want to do while we're here, except for report parts, these other folders are from Visual Studio, from Report Designer. Everything else on this page, except for the logo at the bottom that we uploaded, is from Report Builder. So I just want to have a little bit more clarity here. Under folders, go to the ellipsis on data sources and choose Manage. And at the end of the name, you're going to just type VS. And then click Apply. We're going to go back, and I can use the link here to get back to SSRS video course folder. And do the same thing with the data sets folder that's there. Put a VS at the end of it. I'd just like to take a moment to say that it's really key that you keep your SSRS web portal well organized. You don't want everything just out on the home page. Makes it very difficult to navigate. Since we're in Report Builder and since it's a different process, I want to show you how to insert a logo into a report in this application. So let's go ahead and go to the File tab, and we're going to do Open, and we're going to reopen our Sales Info RB report. So we're going to add a page header section by right-clicking in the gray area, add page header. We're going to right-click in the header section, hover over insert, and choose image. Now here, earlier we did an embedded image. Now we're going to do external, and we're going to browse. And notice it takes us right up to our report server where we uploaded the Learnit logo. So it has to be uploaded in order to be accessed from within Report Builder, but it's stored locally in that source repos folder for Visual Studio and Report Designer. So I'm going to just double click Learnit logo. I'm going to give it a name, Learnit logo. And I'm going to do the tooltip. Please visit Learnit.com for your training needs. And I'm going to put my exclamation point. And now I'm going to click OK. So now I'm going to move the logo over to the right. And I'm going to resize it. A little bit too big, but here we go. And now I'm going to go ahead, and I don't need that much space, so I can put my mouse on this dashed line here and kind of jog it up just a little bit. Maybe if I move this up, it'll jog up more. Let's see. Yeah. So we don't need that much space in the page header section. And now go ahead and run. Select the start date for your report. And you'll see your logo. Go back to Design View and save. In this module, we did some more data formatting as we've been doing throughout the course. Then we moved into uploading images and adding images to report items. We ultimately did that in both Report Builder and Report Designer because it was a different process. And then we moved on and built a chart report. After that, we got into more visualizations, Databars, Sparklines, indicators, gauges, and maps. And then we ultimately saved our map and the parameters attached to it and its data set as a report part that can be reused in other reports. Thank you for attending the SSRS video course. In conclusion, what did we cover? In Module 4, we started working with reporting services data by applying data filters and report parameters. So when you apply a data filter, say, for example, to a Tablix data region, every time that report is run, it's going to be filtered. Report parameters give the end users more capability to determine what data they want to see. In Module 5, we started creating visualizations. It's listed here that we would be formatting data, but we were doing that throughout the course whenever we were working on reports. And Lesson 2, we started adding images and chart reports. And then in Lesson 3, we got into Databars, Sparklines, indicators, gauges, and we created our map report using the map wizard.